Ever wondered what it takes to walk 140 miles in a foreign country all by yourself? Well, today I'm sharing lessons that I learned from walking the Camino de Santiago. And trust me, some of these lessons are going to hit you hard. Whether you're trying to tackle a big goal, get through the hard moments, or maybe just feel a little more confident in your own skin. Either way, you're going to want to stick around. So let's dive into what I learned from the ordinary moments to the badass breakthroughs. And if I had to guess, I bet you can relate to many of these. Let's get to it.
Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Okay, so what feels ordinary? What feels badass? If you've been following me on my Instagram stories, at Ordinary to Badass, by the way, or if you've listened to this podcast recently, then you probably know that I walked the Camino de Santiago in Spain. It was pretty epic. And you know what? Finishing felt pretty badass. I backpacked across Spain alone. That still blows my mind. Years ago, I talked with at Nomads with a Purpose on Instagram, Robin Robledo, and she talked about backpacking through Europe with her family. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's amazing for her, but I could never do that. At the time, I didn't even think I could go do that with a group of people. Yet here I am, just finished backpacking through Spain, right? So it's proof that we're capable of so much more than we think we are. And that experience reminded me just how much we can change. There's been so many times in my life where I'm like, oh, well, that's just how I am, or that's not who I am. And so I would discount myself from doing something because I hadn't done it before, or I didn't associate it with my identity. I acted like it was written in stone. Spoiler alert, it's not. You can rewrite your story just one baby step at a time. Okay, now here's the ordinary part. Since coming home, I haven't done a whole lot, especially when it comes to physical activity. I've realized that I'm motivated by big goals like the marathon or the Camino. If I have something on the horizon, I'm all in. Without the next mountain to climb, I am ridiculously lazy. So here's my takeaway. I need a goal to chase. Something that makes me lace up my shoes and be like, come on, let's go. Something that's exciting, that's thrilling, that makes me excited to do the day-to-day exercise or the day-to-day thing. I need an end goal. But if I hadn't done those big things, if I hadn't done the marathon, if I hadn't went to Spain, if I hadn't done things that were hard, I would not realize that's how I was motivated. Because the day-to-day is the suck, right? Or it feels like it's the suck. It feels like you're in the trenches and it makes it so hard. And it's like, this is boring, right? Because sometimes, yeah, walking, running, boring, or not your favorite thing, maybe. But it's like when you get to the end goal, that feel is amazing. So it's like, if for me to stay motivated on the day to day, I have to have the end goal. And I think that's applicable to you. What motivates you? I think you got to test it out. Just do a little trial and error. Try different things. Never would I have thought that I would complete a marathon. Never would I have thought I would backpack through Spain, right? But you just try little things and see what works for you, what doesn't, what keeps you motivated, what disgusts you or appalls you, or you're like, ugh, I want no part of that. Okay, don't do that. Do it your way. We'll get more into that later. Okay, so you might be asking, Marie, this is the podcast about leadership. Why are you talking about the Camino? And I'll tell you, because work-life balance is so important. It's not just a cute buzzword, it's survival. It's so essential. We need things outside of work that light us up, that fill our tank, that remind us of who we are beyond our job title. And for me, that's travel and adventure and being in nature. And here's the truth. Maybe I'm a little over the top with balance. I know that sounds funny, But I don't check work emails when I'm off. I don't answer my phone. Not because I don't care, but because I do. And I know my personality. I know that I'm all or nothing. One quick email turns into a full day of working when I'm not supposed to be. Then I don't get any rest and I feel irritated and frustrated when I'm back to work, right? So I set a boundary for myself. And the Camino, it reminded me that leadership, inner strength, confidence, they don't just show up in boardrooms. They show up on the trail, in the quiet, when you're stripped down to your essentials. And here's the wild thing. And those lessons out there, they come back with you. They change how you lead, how you work, how you show up. So today, I want to share my biggest takeaways with you from walking 140 miles across Spain in 10 days. What the Camino taught me about life, leadership, and being a badass one step at a time. Let's get into it. Lesson number 1, preparing for the event is just as important as the event itself. Maybe even more important. Here's what nobody tells you. The real work, it doesn't just happen at the finish line. It happens long before it, in all those ordinary, gritty, not so glamorous days. The one where nobody's watching. The ones that don't show up on Instagram. It's those mornings where you drag yourself out of bed and your body's screaming, nope, not today. Those long walks, those practice runs, those moments where you want to quit, but you don't. That's where the magic is. Maybe it's at work when you show up day in and day out and you put in that extra time, you give it the extra effort, and that leads to the promotion. Here's the thing. Every time you show up for yourself, you build trust with yourself. And you prove you do what you say you'll do. And that's what builds confidence. It's not the glamorous medal at the end or the certificate you get or the photo at the finish line. That end medal is really just a symbol of all of the work that you did to prepare beforehand. That promotion, the extra money you see in your bank account, it's what you did to prepare. It's what you did to get there. I don't know about you, but I've often think like the end goal, that's the good stuff. That's the good part. That's what I want. But the good stuff, it's in the day to day. It's how you show up on the ordinary days. It's those seemingly boring, mundane, ordinary days where you show up anyway. And guess what? Those are the days that actually make you a badass. It was true for my marathon, and it was true for the Camino. The end was just a symbol of all the hours, the effort, the mindset shifts, the days I didn't give up. So yeah, you know what? The event matters. But the prep, that's where the transformation happens. Because the ordinary days are absolutely what makes you extraordinary. Okay, lesson number 2, do it your way. What if everything you've ever been told about preparation is wrong? Because here's the truth. I didn't prepare for the Camino the right way. I didn't do long back-to-back hikes like most people do to prepare. I work 4 10-hour shifts in my day job, right? So that's a long day. It can make it harder to train. Instead, I walked 2 to 3 times a day for 45 minutes to an hour. In the morning, right when I got home from work, and then right before I went to bed. That was it. And honestly, I probably could have better prepared for the blister situation. But as far as the physical activity, I was never sore. So my way worked for me. And it's similar to what I did when I trained for a marathon. I didn't run for distance. I ran for time. Because running a certain amount of miles every day, that sounded intimidating as hell. But running for an hour, totally doable. And even when I did run that hour, I would tell myself, okay, run or walk, you're just moving your body. My goal was to run, but I refused to beat myself up for walking. And here's the thing that I've learned. And I get stuck in this trap too, so don't get me wrong. But we act like just because we've never done something before, then we have to follow what everybody else is doing. We have to do it their way. Listen to the experts or the gurus. But that's just not true. And I wish I could tell you that I had pre-planned this for the marathons and I had pre-planned this for the Camino and I thought, I'm just doing it my way. No, it's just kind of how the pieces fell or what felt natural to me or comfortable to me. You've got an inner knowing. Trust it. If you're trying to do something someone else's way and it feels torturous, miserable, or just doesn't feel like you, then find another way. Because sometimes your way is the right way. Any other way, you're not going to get it done because it feels so horrible to you. So tweak it. Do things that work for you. What do you have to lose? Okay, lesson number 3. Traveling alone builds self-confidence. Have you ever wondered what traveling alone could teach you about your own strength? Because let me tell you, traveling solo, it changes the way you see yourself. When you travel alone, you don't have anybody else to lean on. You're it. You have to rely on yourself because you're the navigator, you're the decision maker, the problem solver, the one who has to figure things out when they go sideways. There were plenty of moments on the Camino where I had no clue what the heck I was doing. I was lost in the middle of Spain. Yeah, that happened. At one point, I went 4 miles off the trail, completely off the Camino, and I had to figure out how to get back on track by myself. It was so stressful. Well, tell you, I panicked for like 2 seconds and I was like, "Huh, what do I do?" And then I just said, "Okay, Marie, calm down. Take a breath. You've got this." Even if I had to backtrack, I didn't want to backtrack and I didn't because I'm stubborn. And I had to remind myself, you can figure this out. So it was just me and an app. I had Camino Ninja, which showed me how far I was off track. And so I just did that, but I had nobody else to blame and tried to make sense of this foreign country I was really not familiar with. And here's what actually freaked me out. It's like, okay, I'm in the middle of nowhere. And if I needed to call for help, I don't even know. I don't think I can call 911. I don't know what their version of 911 is. And I don't even know where I am. So how do I tell them where I am? But anyway, I digress. So I took some deep breaths, I calmed down, and I figured it out. I got back on track. I didn't let the panic consume me. And then here's another thing. Don't even get me started on their train system. Their train system is crazy. They had all sorts of numbers. It was hard to figure it out. I didn't understand the announcements they were saying in Spanish, and it was kind of crazy. And it was overwhelming. But again, I took a deep breath and I used my friend AI. ChatGPT, I'd literally take pictures of my ticket, take pictures of the train, take pictures of different things and upload it to ChatGPT and say, help me figure this out. So it made it pretty seamless. But you know what? I figured out on my own what to use so I could understand, right? Even when I needed something translated for me, like a menu, I would take a picture and then upload it to ChatGPT and say, translate this into English for me. And then it would tell me and I would figure it out, right? But that's the thing is you can figure it out and you realize that when you're traveling alone. And if this scares you, if this intimidates you, you're not alone. 7 years ago, I never would have traveled by myself. Heck, I wouldn't have got on a plane by myself. I was terrified to do that. I wouldn't have went to a restaurant alone. So it's like, okay, I've come a long way in 7 years. I'm going to a different country by myself. So if I can do it from not wanting to go to dinner by myself to now traveling alone, you can do it too. Here's another thing is like sometimes I'll go camping alone, but I didn't start that way. Like I started going and I had a friend in a different site. Like a friend and her family were in a completely different site, a little ways from me. So I had time by myself. But then also if I was feeling lonely, then oh, go hang out with my friend, right? So it's like you could just have start with a different campsite and then go by yourself. Or, you just slowly take one step at a time, do things differently until you're comfortable doing things by yourself. And so maybe the first time you're in different tents. You're on the same campsite, but you're in different tents. Then the next time they're at a different campsite next to you. And the next time your friends are in a campsite, 10 sites over. And then you feel comfortable going by yourself. Go in a populated area. It doesn't have to be in the middle of the woods with no bathroom. I'm not down with that. That was actually one of the biggest things I was worried about the Camino, not having a bathroom. But I survived. I got through it. You figure it out. Again, that gives you confidence. That gives you the confidence of figuring it out for yourself. That's the magic of solo travel. You realize, oh, I can handle this. I can do this. And it sticks with you long after this trip or long after your trip is over. So yeah, traveling alone, it's not just an adventure. It's a crash course in trusting yourself, in making decisions, and realizing that you're a hell of a lot more capable than you thought you were. Lesson number 4. You can do hard things. What's the hardest thing you've ever done? You might be surprised what a hill or two taught me about strength. I realized by doing the Camino that it's doing the hard stuff that's the key to unlocking the badass version of yourself. You won't believe how something as simple as walking through pain can change everything. Before doing the Camino, I promised myself one thing, that I was going to walk the whole thing, at least the section that I was completing from Ponferrada to Santiago. No shortcuts, no horses, no taxis, just me and the trail. Here's the truth. I hate hills. Well, actually, I despise them. When I was running marathons with my sister, she would tell you, I'm going to get you a shirt that says F Hills, because every time we got to a hill, I would say F Hills. So when I heard there was the option to ride horseback on the most challenging section, there's this town called Ocibrero, and I totally should have looked up what the height is. It's like crazy high altitude. And matter of fact, there was a couple from New Zealand and they had a 4-month-old child and they were doing it and they had plans to stay in Ocibrero. And then they found out they could not. No child under 6 could stay in Ocibrero because the elevation was so high. So that day, yeah, I had a 19-mile hike, not my smartest move. And somebody told me that I could ride horseback up to Ocibrero. That was incredibly tempting. As a matter of fact, when I first started off, because it started off just immediately like a steep incline, and I was thinking, oh man, why didn't I take the horseback option? But for me, the whole point of the Camino was to challenge myself and to keep the promise that I had made to myself. So I said, no, no horseback ride, no taxi. I'm doing this. So I walked every step, hills and all. And let me tell you, some of those hills, brutal. I'm talking 19 miles on one of the hilliest days imaginable. And at the time, I would have rather done almost anything else. But when I got to the top, I felt so strong. I felt so badass. Here's the thing. You don't get that feeling if you skip the hard stuff. If you skip the stuff that you think you suck at, completing those things that you think you're really bad at, the things that make you want to quit, those are the ones that make you feel like a badass. Those are the things that build trust with yourself. And every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're basically saying, hey, I can count on me to do this. So when the next hard thing comes along, you trust that you can do it or that you'll keep your word and get it done. So yeah, the hills, they really sucked, not gonna lie, but finishing them reminded me you can do hard things. The reward is reminding yourself of your badassery. Okay, number 5, cinco. I'm so good with my Spanish. The power of staying positive. And man, this is a big one. Not always great at it, but I do try to be. So what I've realized is that it's so easy to get in your head when you're in pain or when you're hurting, physical or emotional, and you start focusing on the pain, second guessing yourself and your abilities. And before you know it, that's all you can see. That's all you can feel. And I've been there. But after enough marathons and hikes, I've learned to be aware of the things that I'm saying to myself. Because the things you say in your head, they matter. Matter of fact, I had done many marathons and I was out of shape at one point, like probably at my worst shape. And I had went for a hike with my dad and it was at the Chelan Butte. And it's this, think of the mountain, but you climb it and you have this incredible view of the lake and of the Columbia River. It's really amazing. But really early on, and my dad was in pretty good shape, but really early on, he got in his head because he hadn't done hikes, he hadn't done marathons or anything like that. So he didn't necessarily know the power of what you say to yourself, how strong it was. But it was just interesting because I'm like, he's in better shape than I am, but he's kind of freaking out about it. And like, that will prevent you from getting to the top. That will prevent you from getting to the end. That'll prevent you from getting the promotion when you get inside your head. So prior to walking the Camino, I had listened to Jeremy Renner's Audible book. He is Hawkeye from the Avengers. I'm not really an Avengers fan, but he's a famous actor. And now I'm trying to think. There's a show on Paramount Plus that I watch that I like him. Gosh dang it. Now I can't think of it. Mayor of Kingstown. The end. Let's go. Okay. So Jeremy Renner, he nearly got run over, or he did get run over, nearly killed by a 14,000-pound snowcat. And he was trying to save his nephew's life. He broke over 30 bones, and doctors didn't even know if he'd be able to walk again. And in his Audible book, Jeremy Renner kept saying that he was telling his leg, like, you're gonna heal, you're gonna walk again. He literally talked to his pain every single day. He said sometimes he was yelling at it, like he sounded like cuckoo because he was like, gosh dang it, you're gonna heal, you're gonna get better. And he's yelling at his leg, telling the pain it was gonna go away and it wasn't gonna stop him and he was gonna keep pushing through. He did this all the time, every single day. And that stuck with me because it's like, oh man, how hard would that be when you have 30 bones crushed, when you're told you're not going to walk again, and yet you're speaking what you want into existence? You're trying to ignore the pain, but you're writing a different narrative for the pain. So that one, it stuck with me. So I did my own version of it in Spain. I talked to my feet. I know, sounds crazy. Like a total weirdo. I told them I loved them. I thanked them for being strong and pushing through. At night, I'd rub them with medicine and be like, you're healing so fast. You're doing such a good job. I am so proud of you. And I know that sounds crazy, but it worked. Because what you resist persists. So if I was to try to ignore the pain and act like it wasn't there, even though I was feeling a crazy amount of pain, then I would have just been lying to myself. And of course, my feet were hurting. It was awful. But I chose to focus on gratitude instead of misery. So I kept telling myself, I'm so grateful for these shoes. This would hurt so much more if I didn't have my shoes on. I'm grateful for having a car at home and I don't have to walk everywhere. I'm grateful to have this chance to walk across Spain. And somehow those thoughts, they carried me through the hardest part. And the truth is, it's not about pretending things aren't bad or pretending things don't hurt. It's about refusing to give the pain all of your power. Jeremy Renner had said pain only has value if you give it value. And he's right. And the Camino taught me that. You can acknowledge the pain, but you don't have to let it define you. So yeah, the power of staying positive isn't about faking it. It's about focusing forward, even when it hurts like hell, even when it's hard. Lesson number 6 is about the head game, mind over matter. So I touched on this lightly, but I've learned through marathons, hikes, and especially the Camino that physical challenges are mostly a head game. People think it's about their strength, endurance, or having a small body, being in perfect shape, but it's not. It's your mind. Of course, being in shape and preparing help, but the bigger factor is what you're saying to yourself in your head. And that stuff that you say to yourself, it matters. If you're constantly beating yourself up, doubting yourself, saying, I can't do this, then you know what? Your body listens. It believes you. And those thoughts, that's what makes you stop. And listen, I trained for 6 months before the Camino, but by no means was I in peak shape or was I rocking some tiny marathon body. Did I have huge muscles? Nope. I don't know why I'm doing this crazy little action, but I'm not. But yet I did it. And I saw people of all shapes and sizes doing the Camino as well. And some people that looked super fit actually struggled more than others. And you could tell they were probably strong physically, but the Camino, it broke them. Some people crush marathons and triathlons, but then they go do the Camino and they struggle. Because this one, it's different. You can't just muscle your way through it. You've got to think your way through it. Now that I say that, I don't know that I love that because I don't love the overthinking thing. Oh, I was going to say, just be. Just be. Be in the moment. And that's another thing. Sometimes when I wanted to get done for the day, I would be like, okay, how many months have you been dying to be here? How long has the Camino been your dream? And this is what you get to do. You get to walk through these beautiful trails, see the Spanish countryside. And so I'd remind myself, like, any other time you'd die to be here in this moment right now. So perspective, right? At the end of the day, I believe that your thoughts are 10 times more important than your physical conditioning. Now, again, physical conditioning, absolutely important. But I think that your thought, the power of them is so underestimated. Doing the Camino reminded me your head will give out long before your body does. So you better make sure that the voice in your head is on your side. Because when you believe you can, your body will follow suit. Lesson number 7. Sometimes you need help. This one's for the stubborn ones, like me. And I'll be honest, I'm not one to ask for help, but sometimes it's the best thing you can do. Say yes and accept the help. And you might need to swallow your own pride to experience some success. So listen, I am stubborn, beyond stubborn. When I make up my mind about something, that's it. Done. Deal. So I kept hearing you need walking stick for the Camino. I was like, nope, not me. I don't need them. And honestly, just the thought of using a walking stick just made me want to chuck it. Like I wanted no part of it. And I stuck with this for a good 4 or 5 days anyway. And without them, going downhill was so hard. I was like crawling pace like a tortoise, moving so slow. My toes were screaming. It was not good because they had some steep downhill area. And I still refused. But guess what? Once my feet were tore up so badly and they were just killing me going down hills, and I had blisters and they just kept banging against my shoes and it was not doing good. Okay, I relented. I was like, I'll try these dang walking sticks. And guess what? Those walking sticks, game changers. And so it helped me to realize sometimes the most badass thing you can do is accept help. And my troubles didn't stop there. My backpack was another issue. The left strap just kept digging into my shoulder and it was hurting me. And I just kept trying to fix it myself, kept adjusting my arm and lifting it in the air, just trying to stretch it. And the positive thinking wasn't letting it go away. So out of nowhere, this woman on the trail who didn't even speak the same language as me, she came up to me and helped me. So she saw me struggling. She stopped and adjusted my strap for me. And she had her friend and she goes, oh, hold this. Or that's what I'm picturing she was saying. So her friend was holding part of my backpack. She was telling me it was lopsided and she fixed the strap and it was amazing. It was a miracle because I had been struggling with that side of the backpack or that strap for days and it was hurting and just giving me grief. So immediately once she did that, no pain. And I could have cried. I was so grateful. And then she just walked on like nothing. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. And just that little thing, just her coming up and doing that for a stranger, it absolutely helped me. And the backpack didn't bother me the rest of the trip. So in that moment, the accepting help, her offering kindness, it was part of the same story. So it's like when you're open to connection, it flows both ways. When you're doing nice things for other people are going to do nice things for you, right? I was a little bit outside of my personality on the Camino. Something people say as a greeting to each other is buen camino. And so I started saying that to everyone. If I was going to pass somebody on the trail, I'd say buen camino. Or if they were passing me, buen camino. And so I was saying it to total strangers. I'd say it to cute guys that I'd ordinarily be too shy to talk to in regular life, or to pilgrims, to fellow travelers, anybody. It didn't matter. That simple buen camino meant I see you and we're in this together. And in everyday life, for the most part, I don't say hello to strangers. I keep my head down, do my thing, and move on. But out there, kindness and connection were currency. One of my favorite stories was a man named Bill that I met on the trail. He got lost. It was like a horrible day and he did a big chunk of the Camino, much more than I did, but he was just tired. He was spent for the day and it was pouring rain and he's like, I'm just going to take a taxi to the town I'm staying in for the day. Or I'm going to take a bus. Sorry, he took a bus. And he got on this bus and he got all turned around and he said the bus system was so confusing. He didn't know what to do. And he met somebody on the bus that was from Spain. They didn't speak the same language. I think the other guy knew just a little bit of English. And so Bill had told him he was so confused and he was lost and he didn't know where he was going. This guy got on 3 different bus transfers with him just to send him off in the right direction. And Bill was like so grateful for the help. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have found his destination or it would have been a very long day. And so, like, how awesome was that? That was amazing. That guy to do that and connect with him and help him out. It's like it doesn't just feel good to the person receiving the help, but it also feels good to the person giving the help. And so it's like that's something I'll try to remember in my day to day is like, okay, when I keep saying no to other people, I'm not allowing them to feel good either because I'm not letting them help me. And so, yes, accept the help. And I think the guy getting on the different transfers with Bill, it's like he wasn't just somebody walking the Camino. He's just a good person. And he had told Bill, hey, thanks for letting me practice my English. So it was kind of an amazing story. It warmed my heart. But accept the help. Ask for help. If you don't ask for help, how can somebody help you? How can somebody go get on 3 different buses with you and point you in the right direction? If you don't ask for the help, or you don't say you're struggling, or you don't ask the question. And so the Camino reminded me, people want to help, and they also want to connect. We just have to let them. So yeah, sometimes you need help. And sometimes when you accept that help, it becomes someone else's act of kindness. So give them that gift as well. Lesson number 8. Abandoning a plan does not mean failure. Okay, so sometimes the best laid plans still go wrong, right? So you gotta abandon the plan. And for me, that lesson happened with my shoes. I had trained in a specific pair of shoes for the Camino. I didn't love them, but as the trip got closer, I thought, well, it's too late to switch now. I don't want to risk switching to a new pair of shoes and having more pain, ending up with blisters, or worse, having to find shoes in a foreign country. So I stuck with the plan. And guess what? That plan betrayed me. A few days in, those shoes had to go. My feet were wrecked. So I ended up having to buy a new pair of shoes in Spain, except now I was testing out all of the things mid-adventure. Not exactly the ideal time to be experimenting. I could have done this before the trip. I was wearing 2 pair of socks, trying to protect my feet, and somehow I gave myself hives. And then I tried using toe caps, which are like tiny plastic tubes to go over your toes and protect them. With the 2 pairs of socks, those toe caps, total disasters. They hurt my toes way more than anything else. But also I had 2 pairs of socks, so like there wasn't a lot of room in my shoes. And so the fix hurt worse than the problem. And so that's when I realized sometimes the plan you worked so hard for just doesn't work. And that doesn't mean you failed, it just means it's time to pivot. I think that sometimes we get so attached to our plan because it feels safe, it feels familiar. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right? Or we think if I change direction, then that means I messed up. It means I did something wrong. But the truth is, sticking to something that's clearly not working, that's the real failure. The Camino reminded me, it's okay to change course. Abandoning your plan doesn't mean giving up. It means you're paying attention. Taking all of the information that you have at the time and making the best decision. Sometimes the bravest move you can make is saying, hey, this isn't working. I'm going to choose a different path. The detour is the way. And complete side note, when I went and tried on shoes in Spain, you know what they have? Like in the US, they have like a little nylon type sock or something. In Spain, it's like literally a plastic bag. So it felt kind of weird trying on shoes with plastic bags on my feet. But getting the new shoes overall helped me. It was just having to test and stuff afterwards. But it was a better plan than what I initially had with the shoes I didn't care for. So remember, the detour is the way. It is okay to make changes. It is okay to pivot, to adjust, to completely move off track and do something different when what you're doing is not working. Okay, Number 9 is the one thing you should do before it's too late and why you need to start that conversation. You never know when you'll see someone again. But I don't mean that necessarily in a dramatic way. I mean it in a real life Camino kind of way. There were so many cool people that I met on the trail. I'd I'd walk with them for a day, have deep conversations, and then poof, I would never see them again. Kind of funny how some people you keep running into over and over, and then other people you just don't see again. You don't run into them. And the thing is I kind of assumed that I would run into them later, but I didn't. And one of the women that I was walking with several different times, she was telling me about a guy that she met, and they were all in a big group and they were talking, and she said he was so cool, and she just knew that he had a story to tell. And I think someone in the group had referenced the story or referenced something about his past, and she was like, "That's interesting. I gotta hear about that." And I wish I could remember what that was so I could tell you, but I don't. But he made an impression on her. She thought he was cool, and she really wanted to hear his story. And she thought, "I'll ask him later. I'll ask him on the trail." Except there wasn't a later. She never saw him again. And I totally get that. That happened to me several times. I met the most amazing couple on the first day of the trail. It was a husband and wife, and he was a three-time cancer survivor. And he had just retired, like, within the last year, but he had just got the all clear from cancer, and so they were doing the Camino in honor of him surviving cancer 3 times. It was amazing, and so it was my first day of the Camino, and we couldn't find the entrance to the trail. We walked about 3 miles just trying to find it, and so while it was awful to get off track for 3 miles, it gave us an excuse to talk, right? And got to know each other a bit. And so we finally found the trail. It was a good joke, something we laughed about. We had breakfast together, walked for several more miles together, and then I never saw them again. So it just made me think, like, how many moments do we miss because we're waiting on the right time? The right time to say something, the right time to ask the question, to start the conversation. The Camino taught me this: say it now. You don't know if you'll get another chance. You don't know if that moment will come back or the person will circle back. Maybe life happens, right? And you don't get to have the conversation or ask the question. So don't wait for perfect timing. Say the thing, ask the question, start the conversation, because sometimes later never comes. And you could miss out on some pretty epic conversation. Number 10 is the power of momentum. Okay, I've never had blisters so bad in my life as when I walked the Camino. And trust me, I've done marathons, but the Camino, it humbled me. And it reminded me of something Jerry Seinfeld teaches. He says, don't break the chain. Every day he'd write jokes and then he'd mark an X on his calendar. And the power wasn't in the one day of writing. It was in showing up again the next day and the next day and keeping the chain going. The streak itself became his motivation. And that's what happened to me on the trail. When I stopped for too long, my feet would start throbbing. The pain got louder. It's like the longer I sat there, the harder it became to get motivated to get back up. I didn't want to walk. But when I kept walking, just putting one foot in front of the other, it actually was easier. Not because the pain was gone. I think it was just the momentum that took over. Or I wasn't just sitting there thinking about the pain. And then here's where it gets real. After the Camino, I broke the chain. Partly, yeah, because I needed my feet to heal. But also because I didn't know what to do next. Remember earlier at the beginning of the episode when I said I felt ordinary after such a badass experience? That's why. It's hard to start something new when you've lost your rhythm. It's harder to rebuild momentum than it is to keep going. So the Camino taught me momentum is medicine. It's like the more you move, the more you believe you can do it. And the more you believe you can do it, the further you'll go, right? So if you've lost your chain, whatever that looks like for you, how can you start again? What's one small step you can take? It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be today. Can you do it for 5 minutes today? Because sometimes the fastest way to find your spark again is to take the next small step forward. One small step. It doesn't have to be anything big. And it's amazing how just that one small step every day can build such momentum. All right, friends, that's it. Those were my biggest takeaways from walking 140 miles across Spain. Here's what I hope you remember. You don't have to walk the Camino to find your power. Your Camino might look like showing up to work when you feel like quitting, having that hard conversation, or doing something that totally scares you. Every step, every stumble, every messy but ordinary moment, it's all part of your story. It's all part of what makes you a badass. It's proof that you're building confidence, resilience, and that quiet kind of badassery that no one can take from you. So whether you're facing a mountain, a meeting, or a Monday, just keep walking one step at a time. And hey, if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need a reminder that they can do hard things. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Ordinary to Badass. And remember, never ever shrink yourself for a seat at the table. You're meant to build the damn table. With that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.